when Representative Jasmine Crockett placed a birth certificate and a paternity test in the middle of a live hearing. No one expected it to implicate the president or send the First Lady to the hospital. The gavel cracked twice, echoing through the high-ceilinged chamber of room 2154 in the Rayburn building. The House Oversight Committee was mid-session, and most members were half-distracted scrolling phones, whispering to aides. Crockett adjusted her mic, cleared her throat, and shifted her notes. "I'd like to redirect my questioning," she said, calm but firm, "and enter into record several documents pertaining to unreported financial transactions from a private trust fund. One linked directly to the President of the United States." Heads lifted. Eyes narrowed. "Miss Crockett, I'm going to ask you to stay on topic," the chair warned. "I am on topic," she replied without looking at him. "This is a hearing on federal transparency. The public deserves to know when a sitting president uses hidden accounts to support the secret existence of a child born outside his marriage." Silence. The only sound was the low hum of live broadcast cameras. Representative Blaine Kessinger broke it. "Is this a personal attack or a verified claim?" Crockett held up a manila folder. "It's not an attack. It's evidence. And I'm placing it in the hands of this committee right now." She walked the folder forward herself, unwilling to trust a page. Inside, a birth certificate, bank wires from a Delaware-based trust, and 3 printed emails full color, metadata intact. "Let the record show," she continued. "These documents allege President Donald J. Trump fathered a child with a former staff member while married to the current First Lady, and that substantial efforts were made to conceal it." Phones lit up. Aides whispered. Someone hissed, "Cut her mic." But the broadcast was already nationwide. The chair bristled. This committee is not a stage for political theater. "Then maybe it's time we stop treating truth like bad." PR Crockett shot back. Journalists in the gallery were tweeting in real time. Producers tore up scripts. A dull Thursday had turned into headline history. Kessinger leaned back, eyes locked on her. "You're saying there's a real child and money's been paid for years to keep it hidden?" "I'm not saying it," Crockett replied. "The documents are. I've vetted them, spoken to the mother, traced the money, and if you need more proof, I have it." The chair's hands shook slightly as he opened the folder. The first page of Florida birth certificate dated May 3, 2012. Father Donald John Trump. Mother Lila Dawson. Crockett leaned into the mic. "That's the birth certificate of a 13-year-old boy. His mother was on the Trump campaign payroll in 2011, traveling between Florida and Nevada. Listed as a press assistant, though she never appeared on official staff directories." Representative Elias Monroe squinted. "Dawson. I remember her. Blonde, mid-30s. Disappeared after 2014. Crockett nodded. "Moved to a gated community outside Naples. Bought a house in cash. Lived quietly until the money stopped last fall. Next in the file, a bank transfer. $37,000. Monthly, every month for over a decade. Routed through a Delaware shell company. Buried deep in the paperwork, Donald J. Trump Jr., alternate trustee." Kessinger sat forward. The room didn't breathe, and just 2 floors above, Melania Trump was about to be handed a note that would change everything. "You're telling us this was hidden through Trump Jr.?" The chairman pressed. "Partially," Jasmine replied. "The structure was set up so no payments could be tied directly to the president, but legally, the money still had to be approved by someone close to him. Only 3 people had access to that account. Every one of them is either family or a longtime Trump Organization executive." She opened the folder again. The third item emails. The first is a thread between Lila Dawson and a private attorney tied to the Trump family. The second dated just days before the child's birth, confirms an agreement for quiet support and absolute discretion. The third is from the president's executive assistant, marked urgent, arranging travel for Ms. Dawson and referencing her upcoming delivery. Chairman Greeley exhaled slowly and closed the folder. "Do you have any idea what you're accusing the president of, Representative Crockett?" "I'm not accusing," she said evenly. "I'm presenting facts. Whether they're inconvenient or not doesn't change their weight." The cameras stayed locked on her face. No smile, no theatrics. Just control measured, unshakable, ready. "For whatever came next, you verified these documents?" Greeley asked. "Through independent channels, 2 attorneys, 1 forensic accountant, and the emails were verified by a cybersecurity firm before today's hearing." He looked like he wanted to push harder, but knew he couldn't. The preparation was airtight. Representative Monroe's voice cut through the silence. "Does the child know?" Jasmine hesitated. "He's been told his father is someone important, but not who. He's a good kid. Quiet life, smart. Plays piano. Goes to public school." Her voice caught slightly on that last line, the only moment she seemed personally affected. "And why now?" Kussinger asked. "Why bring this here instead of through proper legal channels?" "Because legal channels get buried when it comes to this family," she said without blinking. "I've seen the games, the silence they buy, the fear. I'm not here for politics. I'm here because this child exists, because Melania deserves the truth, because the country deserves to know the full measure of the man still sitting in the Oval Office." At that moment, a wave of vibrations buzzed through the chamber. Every phone lit up at once, breaking news alerts. First Lady Melania Trump reportedly collapses inside the Capitol after bombshell claims. Crockett's eyes flicked toward the gallery, where a CNN producer gasped. No one knew yet where Melania had been when the story broke. But the fallout had already started fast and in public view. Chairman Greeley stood abruptly. "This committee will recess for 10 minutes. The gavel came down hard. Most representatives left in stunned silence, faces buried in their screens. Only Jasmine stayed seated, staring straight ahead, but upstairs, far from the cameras. The woman at the center of the president's public image was being rushed behind closed doors as aides scrambled to contain a moment that had already spun out of their hands, 2 floors above the chaos. The East Wing communications team was setting up for a small press event. Children's photos. A literacy initiative, a harmless prepared statement. Local reporters chatted idly about camera angles. Melania Trump stood in a powder blue dress by the display table, her public comm perfectly in place. She was scheduled to speak in 5 minutes when her senior aide, Marissa Langdon, appeared. No clipboard, no quiet whisper. Just a firm hand on Melania's elbow and a low, urgent voice. "We have a situation." Melania barely turned her head. "What kind, Crockett?" "Oversight Committee." She just accused the president of fathering a child with a staffer. She has proof documents, birth certificate. For a moment, Melania's expression didn't change. Then her posture did. "What documents?" she asked, quieter now. She brought them into the hearing. Live cameras caught everything. Every network has the feed. It's already trending. Melania stepped back from the table, away from the children's books she was meant to highlight. Her hand rose stiffly to her chest, as if searching for balance. "Sit," Marissa urged gently. "I want to see it," Melania said. They were rushed into a narrow side room near the elevator. A small monitor on the wall was already streaming the hearing. The feed froze briefly, then returned Jasmine Crockett's face, filling the frame, calm and unflinching. "Lives a quiet life. Smart. Plays piano. Goes to public school." Melania stared at the screen. She didn't blink. The room was silent except for Jasmine's voice, steady and final. Because Melania deserved the truth, The words hit like a punch. Her eyes widened slightly, but she said nothing, just stood there. Frozen. "Madam First Lady," Marissa asked softly, "should I call the medical team?" Melania shook her head. But then her hand darted toward the back of a chair. She missed. Her knees buckled so fast, no one could catch her. She collapsed sideways against the table, the sharp thud echoing in the small room. Chaos erupted. Two aides shouted for help at once. A Secret Service agent stepped in from the hallway, radioing the on-site medics. Someone pulled the curtain across the door, shielding the scene from the cameras rolling just outside, oblivious to what had happened. Within 90 seconds, paramedics arrived. Her pulse was strong, but her breathing uneven. She stirred, mumbling something in Slovenian before closing her eyes again. A staffer steadied her while another pressed a cold compress to her neck in the hallway. The word collapsed was already spreading. A Fox News producer heard it from a staffer and texted her editor. By the time Melania was wheeled out on a stretcher, covered in a navy blanket, cameras had gathered at the rear service entrance. They caught just a glimpse enough for Melania. Trump collapses after live hearing to trend across every major platform within minutes. No one outside knew exactly what she had seen or heard. But the timing was impossible to ignore. Inside the secure medical suite of the Capitol, she lay pale, four in her arm, eyes closed. Marissa sat beside her, hands trembling. She said it like it was nothing. Melania whispered without opening her eyes. Marissa didn't respond. There was nothing to say. Across town. Trump's aides scrambled to reach him mid-flight from Dallas to a closed-door fundraiser in Boise. His phone was supposedly off, but one staffer had a direct line to the pilot. Jasmine Crockett's name was now plastered across every news chyron in America. Back in the hearing chamber. Crockett wasn't finished. Someone still thought they could shut her down. Chairman Greeley returned from recess looking 10 years older. The room's atmosphere had shifted tighter, louder, restless. Journalists filtered back in, some whispering into headsets, others furiously typing on their phones. Aides lined the exits at her desk. Crockett sat calm, elbows resting, fingers loosely laced beneath her chin. She hadn't touched her phone, hadn't looked up. But she knew the power dynamic had changed at the far end of the table. Under the seal of the United States Congress sat Christopher Nuland, senior legal counsel to the White House appointed. Just 6 months earlier, normally sharp and quick-witted, he now looked cornered. He sipped water, then placed his hands flat on the table. "Representative Crockett," he began, "the materials you submitted contain unverified claims. They're verified," she cut in. "I've submitted sworn statements and certified documents. If you'd like to deny them, do it on the record." The cameras turned toward him. "I'd caution you," he said slowly, "against presenting unproven allegations as fact. This could be considered defamatory." Jasmine didn't blink. "Tell me what part is false." He hesitated. "Go ahead," she pressed. "I'll wait." Nuland shifted in his chair. "Madam Chair, she asked you a direct question, Congressman." Monroe interrupted, now visibly engaged. "Either this is fake, or it's not. Which is it?" "I haven't had time to review the material thoroughly," Nuland said, "but I can assure the committee—" "No," Jasmine interrupted. "Don't assure us. Prove us wrong." The room froze. She leaned forward. "Tell us the child doesn't exist. Tell us those emails are forged. Tell us that trust fund isn't real. Tell the American people why the First Lady collapsed today. If not, because she just learned her husband might have another child." Nuland opened his mouth, then closed it. Behind him, one of his aides, pale and sweating, tapped furiously at his phone. "Don't look to your staff," Jasmine said, her voice low. "You're the face they sent. Speak." Nuland finally said, I'm not authorized to comment on the president's personal family matters. That's outside the scope of this committee. It was a legal dodge, but not a denial. Greeley raised a hand. Let's stay on topic. Representative Crockett, are you alleging misuse of federal resources connected to these transactions? I'm saying the trust fund was built using undisclosed shell corporations. I'm saying those companies received preferential tax treatment. I'm saying security was deployed multiple times to escort Miss Dawson on government flights. Monroe cut in. That's federal misuse. Exactly, Jasmine replied. Intentional concealment. Kassinger asked, over a decade. She confirmed. Newland leaned back, exhaling through his nose like someone realizing he'd stepped into a fire with no way to put it out. Chairman Greeley glanced around the room. We'll reconvene for a special session to examine these claims. Representative Crockett, thank you for bringing this forward. Don't thank me, she said. Do your jobs. As she gathered her notes, her phone buzzed. A single text. From an unknown number, you're making powerful enemies. She stared at it for a beat, then powered the phone off without replying. Across the hall, Newland huddled with aides, jaw tight, voice low. He no longer looked like a man defending the president. He looked like someone who had just seen how big the iceberg really was. One aide whispered, "We need to brief the West Wing now." Another muttered, "He's gonna lose it." Jasmine was already moving, head high, cameras trailing. Someone called her name, but she didn't turn. No one in that room knew how deep this rabbit hole went or how far she was willing to follow. It's 3 weeks earlier, she'd been alone in her D.C. apartment, barefoot, glasses sliding down her nose, buried in budget summaries she didn't want to read. After midnight, the settee was quiet, just brake lights glowing and the occasional rumble of a metro bus. Her phone lit up with an email from an encrypted address she didn't recognize. He pays her through a shell trust. You'll never find it. Unless you know what to look for. Attached was a file labeled Dawson17.pdf. Inside was a blurry birth certificate for a child, Layla Dawson. Mother's name filled in. Father's line signed in shaky handwriting. The first name hit her like a brick. Donald J. Trump. She didn't sleep that night. By 8 a.m., she was in her office calling an old IRS contactor, trusted forensic accountant from before her time in Congress. "I'll help you," he said, "but I don't want my name mentioned, not even to your staff." By noon, she had 3 things: a list of monthly deposits into a trust account tied to a Delaware LLC, a paper trail buried under subcontractors and deliberate misdirection, 2 red flags no oversight committee had ever flagged. Her chief of staff, Akani Darby, skimmed the papers and set them down. "Jesus, Jasmine, this could kill your career." "Core," she said. "It could be the truth." He warned her, without ironclad proof. "They'll paint you as a political opportunist." She nodded. "I know." That weekend, she flew to Naples, Florida on her personal card. No aides, no press. Just her and a burner phone. Layla Dawson's modest stucco home sat behind a private gate in a quiet Everglades neighborhood where people didn't ask questions. Jasmine parked down the street and walked the rest of the way. Layla answered the door in jeans and a loose t-shirt. Mid-30s, no makeup, eyes carrying a kind of exhaustion no concealer could hide. "You're early," she said, like she'd been expecting her. "You sent the file." Layla replied with a small nod, stepping aside. The living room was clean, but lived-in toys in the corner, a lone piano against the wall, sheet music left open. Jasmine scanned the space before settling on the edge of the couch. "You know what you're asking me to do?" Layla said. "I'm not asking anything." "Not yet," Jasmine answered. "I'm here to listen." They spoke for 3 hours. Number. Recordings, just a notebook and memory. Layla told her about the 2011 campaign job late meetings. A hotel suite in Miami, a pregnancy, and the silence that followed. "I thought he was going to handle it," she said softly. "Instead, I got a lawyer, and the payments started before the birth." Jasmine asked, "Always on time, never from the same account twice. And why now?" "They stopped last fall. No warning. No response when I reached out. My lawyer vanished. I was told to stop asking." At the end, Jasmine asked one last question. "Do you want this story out?" Layla's gaze shifted toward the piano. "He deserves to know who his father is, but not if it ruins his life." Jasmine stood. "Then I'll make sure it's the father who takes the fall, not the child." They parted with an unexpected hug. Jasmine returned to her rental car and sat there for nearly 15 minutes, staring at the closed notebook in the passenger seat. That night, she decided she wouldn't leak it. Wouldn't sell it, wouldn't post it. She would speak it aloud in the one place where lies were supposed to break. What she didn't know was that the truth was already cracking everything around it, starting inside the First Lady's private wing. By late afternoon, Melania Trump hadn't been seen in hours. A brief White House statement claimed a minor health episode, but the timing made reporters skeptical. Then came the shaky phone video, the corner of a stretcher, being wheeled toward an elevator, navy heels and signature soft waves unmistakable. Headlines erupted. Melania Trump collapses after shocking congressional allegation. Chaos in the Capitol. First Lady rushed out amid scandal in the West Wing. The atmosphere was electric and tense. Staff whispered in hallways. Legal teams shut themselves inside rooms. Some aides quietly contacted their own lawyers. President Trump had landed in Boise and gone silent. By the time he got the full briefing, the story was everywhere, from cable news to TikTok, even creeping into ESPN halftime banter. In D.C., Jasmine stayed in her office. She hadn't left the Capitol all day. Her chief of staff, Alan, looked pale. "They're going to hit back," he warned. "They'll go after your family, dig up anything." "Let them," Jasmine said, without looking up. "I haven't lied. That's enough for me to sleep. But they don't fight with truth," Alan said. "They fight with noise, spectacle. Then we keep the signal louder than the noise." Her phone rang, a restricted number. Representative Crockett. A crisp voice asked. "Eleanor Shaw, CBS News. The First Ladies at George Washington University Hospital were told it's more serious than reported." "How serious?" Jasmine asked, her tone even. "Fainting spell. Elevated heart rate. Cardiac tests. Off the record, some in her circle say she was emotionally triggered. She saw your testimony live." Jasmine stayed silent. "We'd like you on air tonight," Shaw continued. 10 minutes, prime time. Tell your side." "I don't need to spin it," Jasmine replied. "The documents speak for themselves." "They do," Shaw agreed. "But most of the country hasn't seen them. They've only heard the headlines." Through the glass, Alan was pacing. An aide gestured toward a folder. On the muted TV, the moment replayed Jasmine placing the documents on the committee table. "I'll do it," she said, "but no makeup chair, no scripted questions. I speak how I speak." "Understood. We'll send a car at 7. She hung up slowly. Alan stopped pacing. "Was that CBS? They want me on prime time? You sure about this?" "No," she admitted, "but I'm not backing down." That night's interview was stripped bare. Bright lights. No notes, no teleprompter. Shaw didn't waste time. "Is this political? Were you trying to sabotage?" "The presidency." "What about the child? What about the First Lady?" Jasmine's answers were direct. "I didn't leak this. Sigh brought it into the light. I didn't name the boy. I didn't shame the mother. I shared what the paperwork already proved." "And?" "The First Lady's collapse," Shaw pressed gently. "I don't take pleasure in that," Jasmine said softly, "but I'm not responsible for the choices that led to it." By the time the segment ended, viewers weren't watching for drama, they were watching for clarity. Then came the message Jasmine didn't expect one from the boy's mother. By sunrise, the country was split wide open. Some called her a hero. Others called her a political hitwoman. Hashtags like hashtag Truth Matters, hashtag Crockett Bombshell, and hashtag First Lady Collapse trended as cable news rolled out a parade of talking heads. Critics accused her of exploiting a private matter. Supporters pointed to the cold, time-stamped evidence. Clips from the hearing went viral. Her blunt line, "Don't thank me, just do your jobs," was everywhere, even remixed into a TikTok beat. People who never watched congressional hearings were suddenly paying attention. In Madison, Wisconsin, 2 retired teachers watched over breakfast. "About time someone said it," one muttered. "She's not making it up," the other replied. In Scottsdale, Arizona, a woman in a nail salon shook her head. "If that was my husband, I'd collapse too." The White House stayed silent. No briefings, no tweets. Just a single blurry photo of Melania, reading in a hospital bed, her expression saying more than the image itself. Back in D.C., Jasmine's phones rang nonstop: reporters, activists, lawmakers. Then came a familiar voice. "Is this a secure line?" "It is," Jasmine said. "I can't keep quiet anymore," Layla Dawson said. "My son deserves to know who he is. I'm tired of hiding." "Are you sure?" "Once it's out, they'll come after you. I don't care." Last night he asked me if his dad was alive. What was I supposed to say? Jasmine's tone softened. "We'll do this right quietly, safely. I'll reach out to someone I trust. No circus." "Thank you," Layla exhaled. Then there's more. Photos, personal messages, things I kept for him just in case. Jasmine's stomach tightened. "Let's meet in person. I'm in Baltimore. I'll text you the hotel name, rooms under a different name. Bring everything." "I will." She hung up, staring. Out at the Capitol dome, somewhere down there, a boy had no idea of the storm gathering around him. Her phone buzzed again, this time from her lawyer. White House preparing statement. Hearing rumors of possible defamation claim. Stay sharp. She set the phone down, rubbed her temples, and braced herself. "They're not going to win this with lawyers," Jasmine Crockett whispered to herself. "They'll try to bury it in noise." But there was one weapon they didn't have: the mother, the proof, and a face the public couldn't ignore. If Layla stepped forward, it would stop being politics and start being personal. And nothing spreads faster than a face the public can't forget. Baltimore was draped in gray that morning. Clouds hanging heavy like soaked fabric. Jasmine's black sedan eased to a stop outside a small boutique hotel near Mount Vernon. Number? Security. No staffers. Just her, a crossbody satchel, and one deep breath before stepping out. Layla had picked this place with care. Quiet, ordinary, the kind of hotel where no one asked questions as long as the card cleared. Room 504. Jasmine knocked once. Then again, the door cracked open, safety latch still on. "You alone?" Layla asked. "Yeah." The latch clicked free, and Jasmine stepped inside. The air smelled of coffee and tension. Manila folders lay stacked on the bed, a laptop open beside them. On the desk, under the window, a taped shoebox waited. Layla looked different now, steady, resolved, like something inside her had locked into place. "You sure about this?" Jasmine asked. "I've been sure since he turned 12, and asked why his father never comes around." Jasmine took a seat. "You said you had more?" Layla opened the shoebox and pulled out a stack of photographs. Cheap CVS prints, edges curled. One made Jasmine pause. Layla, on a beach, visibly pregnant, a man's arm around her waist. The face was cropped, but the thin, combed-forward blonde hair was unmistakable. "This one I saved," Layla said, holding up her phone. She played a short video, dim hotel lighting, Trump's voice telling her to keep quiet and she'd be taken care of. "That's him?" Jasmine asked. Layla nodded. "No one else has it. I've been too scared to watch it. And the DNA." Layla slid a folder across the desk. Inside, 2 swabs, test results from a Delaware lab. Jasmine read the header. "Probability of paternity, 99.98%. Jasmine leaned back. "I'm going to ask you again. Are you ready to be seen? If I stay quiet, they win again. I'm done with that. We'll do this right," Jasmine said. "I've got a journalist who works slow, careful. You'll control the story, not them. I just want him to know I'll protect you," Layla said. A knock at the door cut the air. Both women froze. Layla peered through the peephole. "Room service," she whispered. "I didn't order anything." "Let them leave it," Jasmine said. "Don't open the door." The footsteps faded. Then Jasmine's phone buzzed. An unknown number. The text read, "You were warned." "Back off." She showed it to Layla. "You think they're watching?" "They never stopped," Jasmine replied, snapping a photo of the message and sending it to her chief of staff. "We move fast now. That means we're close." She packed the folders into her bag. "I'll make copies, store the originals. Separately, you speak when you're ready." "If they come after me," Layla began, "they'll have to go through a member of Congress on national television," Jasmine said. "Let them try." She slipped out through the stairwell, coat collar up. Rain began to fall in sharp, uneven drops. But she felt clear. They had the documents, the voice, the test, and soon, the face. This wasn't just a scandal. It was a pattern, a cover-up, a child ignored for over a decade, a mother pushed aside to keep one man's image intact. And it was about to go public. The White House, though, wasn't finished. While Jasmine gathered evidence, they were preparing a counterstrike aimed at her credibility. The headline dropped at 7 a.m. the next day. Congresswoman Crockett, linked to leaked court case ethics probe, requested. It came from a fringe blog, bankrolled by a PAC with a long record of defending Trump and attacking his critics. But the timing was precise. Within hours, major outlets were quoting it. The noise machine had started. Jasmine saw it over morning coffee in her office. The first light of morning cut across her desk. She wasn't surprised, just irritated. Alan burst in seconds later, waving a printout. "They're saying you pressured a judge in Dallas 6 years ago." "Completely baseless," she replied, already pulling up the article. "They know Layla's about to speak. They want to smear me first." Her phone buzzed another message from her lawyer. "Expect subpoena. Just smoke for now. Stay steady." Jasmine tossed the phone aside and stood. "This isn't about me. It never was." Alan hesitated. "Are you ready for what comes next? If Layla goes public, it's going to get messy for her, for you, and for him. I don't need clean," Jasmine said. "I need honest." Across the Capitol, Republican leadership was in damage control. Some pushed to defend the president outright. Others stayed silent to silent. No one expected Jasmine to be this prepared. And no one expected Layla Dawson to resurface inside the West Wing. Trump's team held an emergency meeting. Some aides argued for a public denial, but a veteran communications strategist warned, "If we lie and she shows up with a paternity test, we're finished." Instead, the president tweeted, "Another witch hunt. I'm focused on running the country, not fake distractions." It was vague, defensive, and lacking any real rebuttal. But in Jasmine's circle, the bigger concern wasn't political, it was safety. That evening, after meeting a reporter near DuPont Circle, she noticed a car across the street. same one she'd seen earlier. She slowed, catching a glimpse of the driver's face reflected in a storefront window. Cap pulled low. The car didn't move. She texted Alan, "Need security now." Being followed, he replied in 10 seconds. "On it. Don't go home. Head to Hill office." She turned a corner. The car followed slow, deliberate. By the time she reached the private entrance of the Raven building, 2 Capitol police officers were waiting. They ushered her inside. Alan arrived minutes later. "We can move you if you're not feeling safe. I'm not going anywhere." That's exactly what they want, to scare me? The story is bigger than me. He handed her a USB drive. Copy of Layla's video. Just in case. "We're not leaking it yet," Jasmine said, slipping it into her bag. "She decides how it's shared." "You think the media will treat her fairly?" Alan asked. "No, but the public might. You've got a small window, Jasmine. If you want to put this somewhere, it can't be ignored. Where it has legal teeth it's now." "You mean testify again?" "I mean a closed special session. Put it all on the record. Harder to erase later." She thought for a long moment. "Call the committee chair. Tell him I need 30 minutes behind closed doors." At 2:15 p.m., the doors to the special session shut. No cameras, no press. Just 13 members of Congress, 2 attorneys, a court reporter, and Jasmine Crockett folder in hand. Layla Dawson's voice still echoing in her memory. That morning, she'd gone through everything again: documents, wire transfers, timestamps. She'd only watched the video once. Once was enough. It wasn't crude, it was truth. And once she spoke it, there'd be no turning back. It wasn't threatening, it was damning. A man finally acknowledging something he had spent over a decade pretending didn't exist. Now she was ready to say it aloud. Chairman Greeley adjusted his glasses. "Representative Crockett, you requested. This closed session, you may proceed." She didn't stand. She didn't need to. "Each of you has been provided a confidential packet," she said. "Inside, you'll find notarized copies of the following: a birth certificate from a hospital in Florida, a paternity test from a certified lab in Delaware, payment records from a trust account tied to a Trump Organization-controlled LLC, 3 email transcripts, and a signed statement from Layla Dawson, the mother of the child in question." She paused. No interruptions. "I've also included a personal video recorded by Ms. Dawson identifying herself and detailing her relationship with the president. You will also find a video clip recorded in 2011 showing the president discussing the pregnancy and the need for silence." Greeley turned a few pages, his lips pressed thin. "These materials," she continued, "are not accusations. They are confirmations. I am not seeking censure. I am not launching a crusade. I am fulfilling my responsibility to the people who sent me here, people tired of lies being called leadership." Representative Monroe leaned forward. "Has the White House responded to these directly, only to dismiss them as fake distractions?" Jasmine replied. "No denial. No legal challenge, no explanation. And the mother, she's willing to go public." Another member asked. "She is. And she's ready to protect her son in the process." A long silence settled. One member flipped through the documents again, slower this time. Another just stared at the table. Greeley spoke. "What do you expect from us?" Representative Crockett looked him dead in the eye. "Transparency. Subpoenas, if necessary. A vote to refer this for further investigation by the proper committee so the American people know we aren't just props in a broken system." There was weight in her voice, not performance. Conviction. "This isn't about cheating or scandal," she said. "It's about power, how far it's gone unchecked, how often it hides behind silence and headlines, and how a boy, an actual human being, has lived his whole life without its acknowledgement because it wasn't politically convenient for his father to claim him." Her jaw tightened. And because the First Lady wasn't told the truth, blindsided on live TV by her husband's silence. That's not politics. That's cruelty. Greeley leaned back. We'll consider your request. No promises. I didn't come for promises, Jasmine said. Came for accountability. She stood, nodded once, and walked out. Outside, her staff waited. Alan didn't ask a thing, just handed her a paper. A public statement from the office of the First Lady. She read the first line quietly. I have been made aware of events that have deeply shaken me, both as a wife and as a mother. I will not speak on them publicly, but I will be seeking the privacy and space I need to protect my health and my dignity. No denials, no spin. Just acknowledgement. She knows, Jasmine said. Alan nodded. That night, she didn't go on TV, didn't tweet, didn't give interviews. She walked home alone, bag slung over her shoulder, thinking about the boy, about Layla, and about the dozens of women she'd seen silence, shamed, paid off, or destroyed. She had made her choice, spoken the truth, and she knew it wasn't over, not by a long shot. But some stories don't end in fireworks. Some land slow and heavy and stay there, changing everything without making a sound. Because in a country built on noise, sometimes the quietest truth hits the hardest.